Hello again. Let's talk about archetypes today. Today we talk about archetypes. Good start, great start here. What can I say? Archetypes. So we've covered a couple archetypes in previous videos. We've covered the skunk and we've covered the relief, I think, right? I think they were the first two videos. And they're sort of two characters which I've sort of learned to know that I found myself. And that made me realise, I don't know, or maybe I thought, archetypes, everyone knows about archetypes, they're in stories and stuff, you know. But made me realise that there's a lot of archetypes in human nature that maybe we don't really realise. Because, like a teenager, and I've said this a couple of times, you know, when you're a teenager, you think you're the first person to do anything, don't you? You think that you're original and you know that love, your first love or whatever. No one's gonna break you apart or anything. Or this is different. Or you're not like the rest, or whatever it is. And everyone on the outside is looking in. They can sort of predict what's gonna happen. Sometimes, often, which is a dangerous part about archetypes, which we'll get into, is the predictive element of them. And the more characteristic archetypal you become, the more predictable you might be able to become. Or, but then again, if you knew about it, you might be able to fool them or even lead a better life. So that's why archetypes can be brilliant, because they're not just in stories. The only the other day, I was had this sort of like whimsical teddy bear type attitude, because that's something that I hold dear to myself. The teddy bear. I mean, that's not. I guess it's not really an archetype. It's just a character in it. It's an idea, but that's something which is just we're so used to this teddy bear. But it's an Edwardian thing, isn't it? And I think there might have even been real bears which had pulled the claws out and stuff and kept really small, and, as like a toy, rather than actually as like a stuffed toy bear, which isn't what I'm getting to. What I am getting to is there's sometimes in characters, especially in I think Japanese, it's quite a predominant Japanese character, I think, this sort of teddy bear character, and whether it's because it's this sort of like maybe it's supposed to represent a human person, or maybe it's supposed to just represent a bear or whatever, but the bear has a character. And I was thinking, am I crazy for sounding like a teddy bear character, right? Not like a teddy boy or like a gay bear or something, but just this sort of, I don't know. I suppose they're quite nice, or whatever. Anyway, strange. And I think that's weird. But then I was thinking that personality type, which has been attributed to the teddy bear, characteristically throughout storytelling, has come from a human person and a human personality. So I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just a spirit. I'm just the spirit of the story. That's what I am. That's me. The spirit of the story. And I don't know, whatever. So yeah, the human nature has actually produced a lot of these things, or maybe it isn't. Maybe there are things outside of human nature, these greater sort of structures and patterns which we've possessed, maybe, or maybe it's a mixture of the two. I don't know. But there's lots of them, and there's too many to list, honestly. But they're really quite interesting. And I probably should have made a few. But what my point is, and this is technically another video, but if there is a pattern to them, I'm going to do it in the same video. If there is a pattern to archetypes, if there is a predictable nature to them, and even if there is a higher pattern of some sort, could there be some order to it? Now, whether or not you believe in like tarot cards or something, and you lay down the tarot cards, and whether or not you believe that they come out in the right order, because that would be magic. But whether you could actually plot, like, because teenagers, that's an easy one to guess, isn't it? You go, oh yeah, teenagers. That comes at a certain period when the human body actually starts producing different hormones, and it's characteristically at this point, easy. That's an easy one to predict. And then there's like love archetypes as well, I guess. Archetypes of love and drama and all these sorts of things. And I guess they're pretty easy to predict as well, because you can sort of feel them coming and all this sort of thing. They're in certain environments. But if there's some greater order to all of them, maybe you could plot them, because all of this is about, as you might realise, it's sort of like scientific plausibility and these sort of supernatural things that we might dismiss. But I definitely think there could be some sort of seasonal thing to human natures and stuff like that. I don't know, quite like the sound of that. And I don't want to be at the ignorance of my own working in my own soul, because it would be interesting to feel like you are part of a bigger organism as well. You're not just a name, you're not just a person, you're not just a lonely being, but you are, because this is always like blows my mind. It's the fact that we're alive today. You're not, however many old years you are now, you're not 15 or 20 or 45 or something. You're infinity years old. You've been around forever, and you just forget things every time you're born, which is part of the human experience, and actually being able to relate information to each other. But the thing is, we've been around since time has began, and we are the oldest versions of the original form, isn't it? Which is crazy. Yeah. Because how new are we, really? Because I don't really remember any. Even the stuff I have invented, it turns out I haven't invented. Do you know what I mean? So that's interesting. Whether or not we're going to remember things, and whether or not that's a good thing well, I mean, that could be a good thing. But these archetypes exist, and they're within our genocode, or they're in our societies, and I think there's potentially a lot of money to be had, whether or not it's fortune in predicting the future, like you would at Wall Street or something, like a social Wall Street or something. But there's still value in them, in knowing you say, well, we don't want these sorts of we don't want to be possessed by these sorts of emotions or characters ourselves, and maybe everyone will agree and say, no, I don't really fancy that, and I would really prefer this. And then we go, oh, well, these are the characteristics of how we can do that, and we can move towards that societally, or we can have a bit more disbursement. There would be less of a chaos to it, more of some sort of balance. Or on the alternative, on the sort of in between of those two, we can take elements and we can influence situations to create new situations, which would be lovely and interesting, or quite dangerous. Yeah. So I do believe in archetypes, and I'd like to collect them. See how many that we can think of and name, how they work, and sort of their numbering maybe, or stuff like that. Because I feel like if you were going to make cards, fortune cards, for whatever it would be, future, past, or present, you'd want to know the value, wouldn't you? Because if there are more frequent cards, would they come up in different orders, or would they like actual playing cards, like where ace is 1 and 11? Would it be a bit like that, where the frequency could actually depend on the order that you like? They could apply in a sort of greater archetypal characteristic, or they can apply in more of a like a momentary sort of closeness sort of thing, instantaneous, instant, which would be interesting. But yeah, this will sort of come back to another subject which I want to talk about, called social paradigms. But what I want to talk about, how the different, what I just want to state before we go into that, which I might do next, it's actually a lot later on. But what the difference is social paradigms and archetypes is, yes, both of them can be unique to people, and in ways you could change and affect each other with any of them or whatever. But I feel like social paradigms to me is like a phenotype or something, or like what colours, like your taste, or like what colours that you like resonate with or something, like your schooling or your band or your team, or your mindset. I think that depends. They're a bit like archetypes, like each family member, like the older brother might like blue, and the younger brother might like red, and the girl might like gold or something like that, green, or a mixture of several colours, because it gets quite complex, obviously, because colours, to me, and even in perception, they can have lots of different meanings, I guess. But you know what I'm saying. I hope you know what I'm saying. Anyway, so like some people like to read books, and some people don't like to read books as much. You'd say that. I might say that's your sort of phenotype. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's something else we could socially organise. But regardless of that, archetypes, I feel like it's sort of slightly separate from phenotype. So phenotype would be like the genus or something, genetic sort of structure maybe, or the desires and tastes of the individual. And then the archetype might be that the middle child, they tend to be archetypally different, or archetypally something, but they could still have their own desires or whatever. Yeah, so that's cards and archetypes. And you might be thinking, oh well, yeah, these are deities and these are gods, but this is where we'll get onto the next video, because we've talked about coins, we've talked about possession. We're going to talk about gods next, because I feel like people's understandings of gods, as well as all these sorts of things, which I'm not trying to say that they're real, but I'm just saying, like, is there any plausibility to it? Could we be overlooking like decent things which have been sort of over-skewed and overlooked because of metaphor and stuff? And we'll get to that. But yeah, we're going to talk about gods next, because the difference again between archetypes and gods is, you might be thinking, oh yeah, but if there's love archetypes, I'd say, well, yeah, they're subsidiaries of gods. Okay, but we'll get on to that next. Right, join me now for the next video, which will be about gods.